Chapter 18. The Strategy of War. Will it fool them? I asked my captain. We had ordered the men of the Konidatai to form groups of 3 and light fires. Now the narrow valley and the hillside looked as if they were mirroring the star-filled sky. Wada Kansuke shrugged his shoulders and looked toward Iramura Castle on the peak of the mountain. It is one of the best castles in Japan, with plenty of water and several walls of defense. One thing is in our favor, though. There are many, too many, within its walls. Too many? I echoed. I could not understand how there could be too many soldiers. Lord Akiyama burned one of the villages we passed through, you remembered. Kansuke smiled. He knew perfectly well I had not forgotten. The sight of the burning houses had angered me. I remember, also the dead oxen and the old woman who sat crying by the embers of her home. I looked angrily at the old samurai. Why was it done? There was no reason for it. We have only 2,000 men. There may be as many in the castle, but even if there are only 500 who can wield a sword, it will not be easy for us to conquer it. That is why the villages were burned. Lord Akiyama sent out troops to burn others that you did not see. He wanted not to kill, but to frighten the peasants and drive them from their homes. Why? I still do not understand the reason. Like a herdsman who drives a flock of oxen, he wanted them all inside Iwamura Castle, women and children with hungry bellies, clamoring for food the moment they passed from the castle gate. You see, up there too they have fires. Kansuke pointed to the crest of the mountain where the red glow from the fires could be seen. They have many guests, but none that they want, for they are type of the visitor that only brings an appetite to the party. Wada Kansuke grinned. And that is why we burn the villages, I exclaimed. I was pleased that there had at least been some reason why the homes of the poor peasants had been destroyed. The old woman who I had seen weeping was too old to flee. War is like a fire. It spreads and consumes all in its way. Kansuke coughed and spat on the ground. When does it stop? I asked, wondering if I should go down to where the cavalry was camped and look for Yoshitogi. When, like a fire, it burns itself out. The old samurai picked a piece of wood up and threw it into the blaze. It sent a shower of sparks into the sky. I don't remember when there has not been a war somewhere. My father, like yours, died in the first battle against Uesugi Kenshin, but I was not a child as you were when your father was killed. When will this war burn itself out? I stepped back a little. The flames were hot and I was getting scorched. Soon, I should think. Kansuke pointed into the fire. The hotter it gets and the higher the flames, the sooner it will become ashes. We live in a time that men will talk about when we are long since turned to Buddhas. I doubt if you and I will become Buddhas, I grinned. I think it's more plausible that we will be reborn as... I could not think what we should be reborn as, so I paused. If I must be an animal, let it be a horse, Kansuke said dryly. I will choose a fox, I laughed. A horse may be a pack horse in the Konidatai. The fox is near to the gods. It can change itself into a human being. Kansuke shook his head and scrutinized me for a moment before saying, You will make a tanuki, that's all. A badger who drinks sake and does nothing all day but make mischief. I don't think I'll mind that, I said and laughed. Sometimes I think if I live long enough, I won't die at all but turn into a stone jizo. The old samurai looked at me seriously, and in truth his features did take on the immobility of one of those small, crude, handmade stone images. What did he believe in? I wondered to myself. He worshipped at any temple or shrine, or at least bowed in reverence as he passed its gate. He treated me not so much as a son, but as if I were his grandchild and he was allowed to indulge me. Someone had told him that I had turned back to look for stragglers that day on the pass, and he had been frightened that some harm would come to me and galloped to my aid. Wada Kansuke needed 2 things in his life: someone above him to protect him, to serve and worship, and someone else to care for and protect. I served the second need, and Lord Akiyama the first. Later that night I searched for Yoshitoki. The cavalry was camped closer to the castle. They too had been ordered to build as many fires as possible. From the summit of the mountain the enemy must have thought that there was at least 10,000 come to attack them. I did not find my friend, but stumbled across Kenmotsu, sitting with 2 other young samurai near a fire. I was not particularly pleased to see him, but I smiled and bowed as he mentioned the name of his friends. They had a gourd of sake they were passing among themselves. They offered me some, and I took a sip of it. It was not good sake, and besides, sake tended to make my face imitate the color of the sun as it rises above the horizon in the morning, so I quickly handed the gourd on to others. Kenmotsu joked about me, saying I had enough rice in my charge to brew enough sake to match the water in Lake Suwa. I grinned, and to my surprise, one of the young men took it seriously enough to offer a purchase of rice from me. I turned his demand into a joke, as if I did not believe he had asked me in all seriousness. When he persevered, I suggested he should talk to my captain, Watakansuke, though I said I knew what his answer would be. And what would it be? The young warrior asked. He will sell the rice entrusted to him by his lord the day the rest of you sell his swords. I had heard Kansuke give that answer to a samurai who only hinted he would like to buy more rice than his ration. The young man laughed. Kansuke's words had pleased him, for he patted his swords as if it were alive and understood what he had said. A samurai's sword is never for sale, Kenmotsu said pompously, and while with his stick he drew out from the fire a sweet potato he had been roasting. Never? I asked, hiding a smile and wishing that Yoshitoki were here to make fun of him. If he sells his sword, he is no longer a samurai. A samurai without his sword is nothing. Kenmotsu peeled his yam. It was so hot that it was burning his fingers. He had not even understood what was meant, and I shook my head in wonder. How much rice do we have? How much and for how long? The third man asked. More than they have up there. With a nod of my head, I indicated who I meant. There are many, and more than half of them are women and children who can eat but not fight. I went on to explain the strategy of the burned houses. Although I was pleased to find ears so eager to listen to me, as I held forth, I was disgusted with myself for doing so. I did not particularly like these young warriors. I felt no kinship with them, yet here I was, trying to impress them with my knowledge. A young warrior had made fun of the old woman who had sat so grief-stricken by the ashes of her home. It had not been one of these three samurai, but suddenly I was as angry as if it had been. I refused another drink of sake and made my way back toward the small hillock where the Konidatai had camped. I climbed to the top of the very top of the hillock. The moon had come up, and I sat on a tree stump and watched its flight through the night sky. When I had been a poor boy working in the stable, or before that in the cookhouse with Togen, I had only one dream, to become a samurai. Now I was one, even a trusted one, for Yoshitoki had been right. As aide to Watakansuke, I was respected beyond my age. Even older samurai treated me courteously. Only a few of the young ones, or the poorest of the bushi, thought themselves above me. So I said to myself, your dream has come true. The gods have heard you and given you what you have asked for. Yet you are not satisfied. Why is that? I smiled a little forlornly. It was strange to be sitting here in the night holding a conversation with myself. Because I was poor once, I whispered. Part of me still belongs in that cookhouse with Togen. I recalled the archery contest when Katsuyori had become the head of the Suwa family. I had run out in the rags as if I had belonged among the young masters, and an attendant had roughly pushed me back into the watching servants. I was more properly one of them then than I am now, I thought. I shall always be not one, but two persons. A cloud had obscured and passed the moon, which again threw its pale light over the landscape. The moon and stars are constant. It is within ourselves that change takes place, and that is why we admire the lantern in the sky at night. I tried to make a poem, imagining that someone like myself was also watching the moon from within the besieged castle. It did not altogether please me, but if I only included in this story poems I thought were good, it would be as if I only told the times when I acted bravely. So still the world barely breathes. The moon is painted with a whisper. The castle on the mountain top. Who within it has the calmness of heart to watch the star-filled night?